Google knowledge panels, getting yourself that KGM ID, also known as a knowledge graph machine ID, and the importance of it. Today I'm joined with no other but Dennis Yu, who is an absolute legend when it comes down to knowledge panels. So Dennis, first and foremost, before we start about how to trigger it and more in-depth kind of conversation, is it important initially to have a knowledge panel, and why?
It is if people are going to Google your name, your company's products, your company, and you want to dominate the search results with those colored boxes, you want to win an AI search, you want the featured snippets to show up, then yes. If you are just somebody where you're trying to be invisible, then it doesn't matter. But if you're a public figure, if you're an entrepreneur, then by definition, you're a public figure, and that would be important.
Yeah. So anyone now that says, I want to be seen in AI, I want to grow my business, I want me to be the founder that's attached to a successful business that I'm really proud of, but they don't have a knowledge panel, what's the first steps for these to try to start going, okay, I'm going to start now working towards getting myself a KGM ID?
Well, you can use Google's tool. You don't need to use anyone else's tool, and look yourself up. And we built a tool too, just to show how many other James Dooleys there are to see what the competition is. And then usually you'll get a few other people. Maybe you'll be unlucky and there's like an athlete or a porn star or someone like that. But even if there is, you can still get your knowledge panel. It's a matter of you have to decide, what am I really known for? What have I achieved? What am I notable for? And it's not the Wikipedia notable. It's a different kind of notable. Are there citations and facts that are not from your websites, not from your social media, that show credibly that you are someone who is worth listening to about a particular topic or having achieved a certain result? So that should tie with your why. That should tie with the reason why you started your business if you're an entrepreneur. That should tie with the expertise that you have. But most people, they don't have the footprint of all the social media. They don't have a personal brand site. They don't have schema on the company site and the personal brand site. Their company about is really their personal about, and they have all this confusion, which creates disambiguation. But if you get that basic layer sorted out, which literally schema with WordPress takes care of half of that, then get on other people's podcasts, interview other people that you think should be notable or are notable in the area that you want to be known for. Take those podcast episodes, and those each become a chapter in a book, and you can use your favorite AI to turn it into a book, put it on Amazon, have the print and Kindle copies, put $1 a day against it, make it a bestseller, take a screenshot showing your bestseller, then it's driving traffic. You repurposed all those podcast episodes to YouTube, and now you have this virtuous circle. So no matter where Google is looking, they look on social media, they look at Wikipedia, which is sort of its own little thing. They look at, X, they look at Facebook, they look at people's blogs, and all of those corroborate, yes, this is James Dooley.
So with regards to that, there's quite a lot of stuff in there then that I need to kind of unfold a little bit. So you're talking about disambiguation. For anyone who's listening to this that isn't familiar, obviously it's a very well-known term used within the knowledge panels. Can you just explain what disambiguation means between obviously different kind of people with the same name and stuff like that?
I mean, you want to show that you are distinct. If there's this John Smith and this John Smith, how do we know that it's the same John Smith? Maybe you have a business name, ABC Plumbing. Well, how many other ABC Plumbings are there? Well, that's when you go down to the facts of the name, address, and phone. That's when you go down to the other entities that are attached to that particular company or that particular person. So if you think about that entity, how clear is that entity? So the entity could be, a person, a place, a whatever, a company. But we say, James Dooley, let's say, as a person, that entity. What are the facts about that entity? What was your date of birth? Who are your relatives? What books have you written? What companies are you involved in? What are all the facts that Detective Google would find in researching you? And a lot of people, because of the way they do hypertext, or because they create pages the wrong way, or because they don't have a personal brand website and they use their company about, all of those things create confusion. So disambiguation is just a fancy way of saying, reduce the confusion so we have clarity on information tied to each particular entity, and then how those entities are connected. If the entities are, if that structure is set up properly, including all the social medias for each of the names, and then that information is connected together, then it sends a very clear signal, and Google can be very sure, yes, this is James Dooley. Yes, this is Dennis.
So, and that leads me on to the next question, because you said about connecting the entities together, right? And you mentioned earlier about getting a personal branded website. So for me, it's like jamesdooley.com. And some people call it different things. Some people call it like the entity hub, the brand hub, or whatever it is. And that's the central source of who you are and what you do. And then you said there about getting schema with the same as and linking it to exactly like your social profiles and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
pretty much everyone should have like a Twitter, a Facebook, a YouTube, and all the basics,
Yeah.
and linking through to it. Obviously, you speak about the dollar a day amplification. If anyone doesn't know what it is, check out the link in the description, which kind of builds up the popularity. But you mentioned podcasts. Should, if you, let's say you're on this podcast now, would you, on your own entity hub, would you go and do a post about this podcast and then wrap that in schema, or do you just wrap it in schema just on one podcast page for all the different podcasts, or each individual podcast do you go and then do a dedicated URL and link to that podcast?
You've been listening to Jason Barnard, because that's what he would say. One page for each of these that are all linked together. But when you look at that, it looks like someone is designing that for the robot. And I get it. Like, you want to have, subject, verb, direct, object. You want to, categorize everything the right way. In an ideal world, yes. But I think practically speaking, it's this. If you have a relationship, and there's proof of it, like you and I have done multiple podcast episodes, and that's distributed on blog posts on YouTube. YouTubes are embedded inside the blog posts, and we use schema to identify the objects that are within that page. And yes, if it's an important object, then we'll have a whole page for it, and it ties to other related sorts of topics and objects and all the things that you would do as SEO. Yeah, you would do that. But I think literally it's as simple as saying, what of all the different things I want to be known for, of all the people that I know, can I prioritize the top 2 or 3 topics, the top 2 or 3 people I want to be associated with? And is there long form content like a podcast episode? Because I think the podcast, I don't want to be in a podcast. It's not that I'm trying to be a podcaster. It's that the podcast, which is usually 45 minutes or so, is the easiest, most effective way to gather a whole lot of content in one go. And then that can be repurposed 100 different ways, literally. Chopped up clips, social media edits, articles, chapters in a book, like so many different ways to be able to use it. We call repurposing it in many different ways. So I like podcasting as a hack, because I only need to sit down with someone once or twice, and then I've got content for days, and then that enhances their ability to show up on Google. That my stuff will show up in their knowledge panel, and vice versa. My favorite part of the knowledge panel is not when people look for, because if you Google my name, you'll see the knowledge panel and all that. But when you look at like Neil Patel or Mari Smith or other people that are well known in digital marketing, it'll also say people also look at Dennis Yu and these other people, right? That's when you know, because when you're connected to these other people, you speak together, you tag them on Facebook, but not in an annoying sort of way. You reference them by saying, here's one thing that, Gary Vaynerchuk told me, and you show a picture of you and Gary Vaynerchuk. That shows that you are, I'm not even doing it for Google. I'm doing it because it shows the audience that you're credible, right?
Yeah. So that notability and credibility of what you're doing, does that then, with, let's say someone types in Neil Patel, you've got people also search for, is there any other ways of getting in there, or is it just come down to how much noise you have together and the connections together? Or is it related to, because it says people also search for, like, is the follow-on questions or follow-on kind of, the search for Neil Patel and then they've gone and searched for Dennis Yu, for example?
It's when people who consume Neil Patel's content, people who consume my content, and that's a Venn diagram, and there's that overlap, that oval, that football shape in the middle. That's what Google's looking at. Just like with YouTube, right? If you I was in Turkey last month, Göbekli Tepe, researched ancient civilizations, the stuff that's 6,000 years older than the pyramids, and it starts showing me stuff that not only is related to Graham Hancock, who talked about that, but also on that topic. So certainly consider what are the topics you want to be known for, so you can be recommended in ChatGPT or YouTube or whatever, but also consider who are the people. And so I think that the intersection of people and topics is really where that sweet spot is. And then you do a podcast with a couple of those people, and you've just hit the bullseye.
Yeah, so obviously we've spoke about video format and podcasting. Does Google Images, ranking in Google Images, have any sort of impact in improving your knowledge panel or not?
It does, but remember, when you have a podcast or a video with somebody, you can pull images out of that.
Yeah.
And then once you have a knowledge panel, you can, of course, go in and edit it and choose which pictures you want or correct information and whatnot. Or more common, folks like you and me will have duplicate knowledge panels. And then we'll try to merge them together, and that whole messy thing of trying to, consolidate, disambiguate down into one.
Yeah. And what about Google Scholar? Do you do anything with Google Scholar to
Yeah,
try and do things?
that's great for books. There's many other places you can do to publish this. If you've done anything in terms of academic publications, which is not the same thing as self-publishing on Amazon, that does carry more weight. It's kind of like an edu link versus a .com link.
Yeah. And then obviously with regards to mention the books, do you always publish it on Google Books as well? Because it seems to strengthen up. It always seems to pull in that as being one of the bio descriptions in knowledge panels. Do you publish it or do you only publish to Amazon?
Well, in an ideal world, you publish to all of these, and we would think that Google would be biased towards their own source. They'd be biased to YouTube and Google Maps and things like that.
Yeah. And with regards to the book you mentioned in there, bestseller. How are you looking to get the bestseller for the book? Is that you using the amplification of a dollar a day strategy?
Yeah, in our other episode, we talked about dollar a day. So if you have interviewed someone on your podcast who is well known and has the depth of expertise that you want to be associated with, and then that gets turned into a book, which is very easy to do using your favorite AI tool, and you publish that to Amazon, and then let's say you interview 10 people, and then you send out that book to all of those 10 people, and now they're co-authors, and now they're sharing that I'm so excited to be in James Dooley's book. I'm in chapter 3, right? Now all of a sudden, all of them are sharing that book, which ties to that entity, right? That's an object, ties to you. You're another object as a person, and you're creating these amazing third-party signals, which is kind of like, in a technical way, improving your personal brand. Then when you run dollar a day ads on Amazon, maybe put like $5 a day, but you only spend like $1.50. And you can choose up to 3 categories, but when you become a bestseller in one category, it's actually very easy. You take a screenshot of that, Google can see that, Amazon can see that there's actual traffic, people like your book, hopefully you get some good reviews, right, if your book is good. And then you're showing real behavioral signals, which is ultimately what we want to show.
Yeah. Is there any specific choice of category that you go for? Because I'm presuming if you just went marketing in general, it'd be hard to get bestseller.
Yeah, but this is the whole like niche. What niche do you want your business to be in? So I have a friend, Jabez Lebret, and he wrote arguably the book on digital marketing for lawyers, right? And he spoke at all the big conferences that and he would bring his book. He says, and he would advertise that he was at the conference. He'd say, "I'm the #1 bestseller in digital marketing for lawyers." And then he told me, because I said, "Really?" He said, "Don't tell anyone. I only sold 7 copies of my book." But right, like how many other people have produced a book on digital marketing for lawyers? My buddy Danny Liebrandt, probably see me and him do a bunch of stuff. He started out of nowhere 3 years ago, and he chose the super niche of SEO for pest control companies. James, how many other people do you know that are experts for SEO for pest control companies, right?
Yeah.
He interviewed all the top people in pest control. Some of these guys have $50 million a year companies. He went to the conferences. He's interviewed the Neil Patels of the world, like anyone who's even sort of connected with pest control. Now he has ownership in a pest control company, a pest control agency. He speaks at Pest World. He's at the all these pest podcasts. Everyone in the world of pest control knows who he is, right? He's a celebrity when he walks around to the conference because he chose that. But he did the podcast thing, turned it into a book, gave out copies of the book, set up a table. People come up. They love to take pictures and autograph copies with him as the author, right? All of those things multiply together. And then, of course, run ads, free plus shipping, use it to sell your course or your coaching program or whatnot, or give away your book, right? All that.
Yeah. Let's say someone's done all that. Let's say someone's watching this episode and they're saying, I've got my books. I've got lots of videos out there. I'm promoting it on social media. doing the dollar a day strategy and stuff like that. And there's two other names. There's three really, really powerful Dennis Yus. There's a porn star, there's a sports player, and there's yourself. And when you type it in, your name isn't coming up. Them other two are. Apart from the amplification on socials, is there any third-party sources that someone could be watching this saying, you need to be doing this, and this? I'm not saying that it's a one-size-fits-all, but is there any like really trusted sources that you think, and I don't just mean like go and get yourself a Wikipedia page because you might not have the notability yet.
Yeah.
I've seen you talk about Grokpedia, saying go and get yourself in there and stuff like that. Is there any other sources that people could just, as a key takeaway, say, go and get these? They're pretty simple to get and they will improve the clarity and confidence with who you are and what you do, which might take you on to the next stage.
You could publish that book, cross-publish, which is fine, on free-ebooks.net, which has been around forever. I'm an owner in it. It's got a domain rating 75. We have 500,000 visits a day coming organically from Google. So you're coming from the UK, you type in free ebooks, I'm number one, right?
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. If there's there's a porn star and an athlete or whatever with my same name, maybe that porn star is in India. And I'm not trying to rank in India, right? What I'm trying to show up for the audience I want to reach. And Google's smart enough to know when someone's looking for, Dennis Yu and they're in home services or they're in local, Google knows to show me, right? There is a Dennis Yu Hong Kong film director, because, Yu is a 2-letter last name, super common. It's like Smith, right? So if you're in Hong Kong and you type in Dennis Yu, you'll probably get that guy who's a famous film director. So the context is important. I don't want to try to rank for Dennis Yu everywhere all the time. I mean, I probably do. I know there's a lot of other people with my same name and they say, dude, I get hit up all the time. And they think, they can't find me because they find you. And it's so annoying. Now I also own the domain dennisyu.com and all that. But I don't think it matters to this idea of like, you need to win overall all the time. When do you need to show up when there's business value to you?
Yeah, I think I've seen you've done a video on the free ebooks, have you?
Yeah.
If there is, send it me through. I'll put the link in the description so anyone who's looking at it. I think you've got a whole strategy around how you should be sending that out.
I'll do this for you, James. So you've got 280 episodes or something like you have so much content. If you want to package that up into a book and follow our article guide, our book guidelines, which are pretty straightforward, I'm the publisher. So I will publish it. I will feature your book. I will link to you from many, many places. And you couldn't even buy links of that quality.
Yeah.
I'll do that for you because I want you to see.
I published I don't know if you know this or not, but last year I published 8 books. So they're on Amazon, they're on Google Books and stuff like that. 8 different books that I sent out. I did similar strategy. I never heard you talking about this previously. I did a similar strategy where I went and got, I think it was like 47 influencers in the SEO space. And I did one which was like advanced SEO tips. And I got all them to write a chapter each and syndicated it out. And I went and like bought, I think it was like 500 copies and give it out at certain events and stuff like that. And the amount of exposure that others got from it and stuff like that was incredible. But I didn't do the free ebooks. And it was, if I'm being honest with you, it was painful doing it, writing, because it was like, was having to check it all. A lot of people was coming back with AI content and was having to change it. And it became hard work in doing it. Where this year I'm going to go very aggressive on the podcasting circuit. So I've launched 8 different podcast series. And I'm going to go very aggressive on podcasting this year. Where last year it was books. This year is going to be podcasting. But I don't know if you could do any of the existing books. We can talk off air about this. But yeah, some of the existing books I have, could that get syndicated out to the free ebooks and stuff like that?
I'm a big fan of starting with real podcast content, like you and I having a real conversation. Because I'm just one of those, I just assume that people are guilty until proven innocent. I just assume it's AI content if it's a submission. So I just need to see that, you and me or whoever are actually talking face to face. Yeah. And I'm trying to prove to the AI beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not AI generated, which is why I want to see you, I'll fly out to Manchester later this year. We'll record like a whole bunch of these all at once to show that this is real. We'll even live stream it to prove this was real.
Let's do it. I'm more than up for it. We can, I And I will, like I said, can do a whole playlist about what we did, why we did it, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I think it'll be incredible. So anyone who's watching this with regards to knowledge panels, is there anything else that we've missed there about, specifically about knowledge panels, improving KGM IDs, that people who's watching this are like, okay, I need to now take this to the next level. I understand from a previous video I've watched, I'm on about the people watching this, that personal branding is not ego, it's risk management. You need to be doing it. In my opinion, if you're wanting to grow a business and wanting to be the entrepreneur, you need that personal brand, you need that knowledge panel. Is there anything else as a key takeaway that you think that the users should know?
So clearly, if you're watching this, you want to get a knowledge panel or you want to get a stronger knowledge panel. But consider this. If you are podcasting with other people who will all say yes, believe it or not, even if they're a big deal, and they have a knowledge panel, they're notable, they have authority and credibility, then you, by interviewing them, actually enhance their knowledge panel. And then by associating with them, when people look up their name, it might also show you. So in the same way your personal brand is what other people have to say about you, the best way for you to build your knowledge panel is to honor all these other people in your industry, and they even could be a competitor.
Incredible advice there, Dennis. Dennis, it's been an absolute pleasure. If anyone wants to know any more about knowledge panels, comment down below. Dennis has agreed that he will do any other videos to discuss whatever you're struggling with, whether you want to know his specifics of triggering a KGM ID and triggering that knowledge panel. Let's say you've got one and you want it strengthening. Dennis can go into depths. He's previously a search engineer. He knows all the ins and outs related to knowledge panels. Make sure you like and make sure you drop a comment in. Dennis, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, James.